up, mate. Got cake, mate. Got cheese, mate. Got bread, mate.
All right, last but not least, our final regional video, and we're going to cover the Midwest region with the number 1 seed Purdue Boilermakers. We're not very high on Purdue, rightfully so. We had Fairleigh Dickinson beating them in the first round last year. Wasn't a surprise for us, but now they'll be waiting the winner of Montana State and Grambling. That's going to be an interesting game. Grambling has a pretty bad offense, and they turn the ball over way too many times. Last I saw, Montana State was favored by 4. This is a play-in game for Wednesday, so I'll wait and see what happens. But more than likely, I'll probably lay the points with Montana State. I don't want to back this Grambling team that has issues with turning the ball over and not being able to score. I don't see Purdue getting beat by either one of these teams. The committee, everyone, NCAA, they're obsessed with Purdue for whatever reason. Zach Edey, they're obsessed with them. And this is probably one of the easiest and less talented regions. It makes absolutely no sense with the East region being absolutely stacked with UConn in there and a potential cakewalk for Purdue. But not so fast. We'll get into that eventually. So the next game we have here, number 8 Utah State against the number 9 TCU Horned Frogs, favored by 4.5 points. This game will be on Friday, 9 o'clock. Interesting game. We're gonna have an offensive versus defensive matchup here. Utah State's offense against the TCU defense. TCU is the much better 3-point shooting team, defensive team, and rebounding team. But this is an interesting spread. 4.5 spreads. We kind of talked about this last week. They're always tricky. At 4.5, it's kind of either the dog is going to win outright or it's going to be a blowout from the favored side. It's never in between. The game, I feel like the game never lands on 4, never lands on 3. It's either an outright win by the dog or a runaway victory for the favorite. But we'll have to wait and see here. TCU's problem is they turn the ball over way too many times. If Utah State can take advantage of that, then they definitely have a chance. I don't know here. The thing is with TCU, they play great defense. You never know what you're going to get from their offense. They could make 10 3-pointers and have like an amazing game, or not be able to make their threes and struggle. So you never know what you can get from TCU. Utah State, this is a whole new team from last season. Last year, they got beat up by Missouri in the first round, but this is an entirely different team with, I think, only one player from the last team, new coach, new regime. But with TCU, I feel like they are the better team, and with the better defensive numbers and the better rebounding, I feel more comfortable with TCU. But again, this line's moving back and forth. It was at 3.5, now 4.5. So this game being on Friday, we got time to let this line marinate. I don't want to jump on it right now on either side. So I'm happy to sit back and let the market do its thing, and then we'll pick off a winner when the time comes on Friday. But again, check out the website. That's where we're going to have all of our official cards for the whole tournament, every single game, every tournament, every handicap. Not every tournament. I'm not going to do the NIT and any other tournaments, but the official cards for the NCAA tournament. Next game, number 5 seeded Gonzaga Bulldogs, favored by 6 points against the McNeese Cowboys, 12 seed. This game will be on Thursday at 6:20. We're going to have a shootout here. Both teams love to run and gun, and they're great on offense. McNeese State has a really great offense, better 3-point shooters than the Zags, but McNeese is going to be the trendy dog, but it's funny how they get matched up against, Gonzaga here, who, that Gonzaga is who McNeese State is now. That's who they used to be. So I don't know what to expect here, but what I do think is this game is pretty even, and getting the points with McNeese, I feel like, is probably the better way to go. The Zags have better defense, slightly better defense, and slightly better rebounding. But I feel like this game's going to come down to the offensive side. McNeese doesn't turn the ball over. If Gonzaga turns the ball over too many times, that's where they can get in trouble. That's how they got in trouble against St. Mary's. And I don't know, 6 points with McNeese. I'd rather get McNeese, maybe a flyer on the money line as well. But, just right now, the way McNeese is playing, they're hot. Gonzaga was hot, got cooled off by St. Mary's. Um, I don't know, interesting spread. I'll see how it goes, but I feel like it'll go close. It'll be trending towards McNeese rather than Gonzaga. If you like Gonzaga, you probably want to wait to bet this. If you like McNeese, I don't see it getting back up to 6.5, possibly 6.5. So I would take any 6.5, sixes right now with McNeese, and I might do that as well because I feel like it'll just keep going towards the Cowboys. All right, next game, another close one. Number 4 Kansas Jayhawks favored by 8.5 points against the number 13 Sanford Bulldogs. In this one's gonna be on Thursday, 8:55. So another late game on Thursday. Sanford's a live dog here for me. Kansas has injury issues. They have offensive issues. They have depth issues. They have so many issues. Sanford's kind of the opposite. They have a really strong offense, really great 3-point shooting, really deep bench. So Kansas has a decent defense, and if they can make and force Sanford to turn the ball over, they could. I'm talking about Kansas like they're an underdog here, but Kansas has been probably the biggest disappointment this season. I wouldn't say, St. John's or, some other schools. I would say that Kansas is probably the most disappointing team this year. They just have no bench whatsoever. Johnny Furphy, he was red hot at the beginning of the year and has just spun, and it's been a tailspin for him. And he hasn't really done much since the beginning of the year, and they just don't get any scoring. There's no telling how healthy McCullers is. Dickinson, they rested, so they're gonna be rested, but I don't know if it's enough. 8.5 points, even though I think this is one of those spreads where it's more of the name on the front of the jersey rather than the actual team itself. So for me, I'm taking the points with Sanford. Even taking a flyer on the money line. This is a matchup where I wouldn't mind doing that because, like I said, I do not like the Kansas injuries. I do not like their inability on the offensive side of the basketball. If Sanford plays a tough defense, could give them trouble. I feel like it's just way too many points. I'll take it gladly with Sanford in this one. The next game, another coin flip game for me. Number 6, South Carolina Gamecocks favored by 1 point against 11 seed Oregon Ducks. This game will be on Thursday, 3 o'clock. All these are Central Time. This game is almost as dead even as it gets. You could probably give an edge to South Carolina because they played in the SEC schedule rather than a Pac-12 schedule that Oregon played. But Oregon was unhealthy the majority of the year, so do not forget that they had guard issues. Dante was injured, but now they're at full health and they look good. All right, so pretty much South Carolina's slightly better defense. Um, Oregon and South Carolina's rebounding is about the same, but again, they're gonna have 7-footer Dante, who is a monster of a post player for Oregon, so he's gonna give South Carolina trouble. Again, dead even game for me. You could either give South Carolina a boost because they played SEC, or for me personally, I think I'm gonna give the veteran team the boost, the experienced coach the boost. Dana Altman, who could make runs, who made a run in the Pac-12 tournament to get into the tournament. I give the edge to Oregon here. I'll take the point with Oregon. I've liked South Carolina all year. We've talked about them as a long shot getting in the to get to the national championship, but they just so happen to match up with Oregon, who's really hot right now. And in my opinion, they have the experienced players. One of their best players is a freshman, though. But it's all about Dana Altman being a coach and being ready for anything that South Carolina throws at him. And this is going to be one of my favorite games that I'm looking forward to watching. But as of right now, I give the edge to Oregon. If it's a dead even game, give me Dana Altman as the head coach and Dante in the post, and we'll see what happens. But South Carolina is going to be very good. They're just going to be inexperienced in tournament play. The next game, number 3 Creighton Blue Jays favored by 12.5 points against 14 seeded Akron Zips. Akron kind of got into the tournament off of a miracle. Kent State kind of fouled at the not kind of they did foul at the end of the game, even though they were winning. Total boneheaded move by the player, by the coach. Hate to see it, sad to see it, but that's the way it goes in March. You got to be thinking with your head, and they obviously weren't. Akron sneaks in the tournament. Creighton got I don't know if they got blown out. They got beaten pretty easily by Providence in the Big East tournament, but that did give them time to rest. They have the better offense. Akron has a decent defense, but they but Akron can't shoot the three. They can't rebound, so they're going to struggle against Cockburner in the middle. And I just don't know how they're going to get the offense to compete with Creighton. If their defense throws Creighton off the 3-point line, can make this close at 12.5, maybe they sneak in, but that's asking a lot for Akron's defense if they can't score any points. So in this game, I kind of like Creighton, laying it with Creighton. Last year they had a tough first round matchup, but I just think Akron's just not on that upset backdoor cover level here, especially at this number. Not one that I would play right now, but I have no issue with 12.5, 13, all the way up to 14 is kind of like, you know, a decent spot there with Creighton. Next game is going to be the number 7 Texas Longhorns taking on the winner of Virginia and Colorado State. That playing games tonight, and for me personally, I like Colorado State. These are both pretty even teams, except of course Colorado State has a much better offense. Virginia with a much better defense. But for me, Virginia's a terrible free throw shooting team. That's why they couldn't win the ACC tournament. They couldn't shoot the free throws. They had trouble. They probably should have never even gotten to that round against NC State. Boston College should have beat them. They choked that game, choked a huge lead, gave them trouble with their pace. I think Colorado State can do the same today. I 100% rather have a ticket on Colorado State and lose than have a ticket on Virginia and lose. If I had a Virginia ticket and they lost, I would just be kicking myself and pissed because I knew that wouldn't be the right side. So I do not like this Virginia team. Yes, they can play some defense. They can shoot the three, but they're terrible free throw shooting. With a tight spread like this, you're going to need them to make free throws. But Colorado State, I feel like they can do enough offensively. Virginia celebrated like they won a national championship by just getting into the tournament. Hopefully, Colorado State, this isn't their first rodeo being a play-in team, so hopefully they're locked in. Give me Colorado State. And then Texas, I think Texas is going to be a 5-point favorite over Virginia and a 3.5-point favorite over Colorado State at a look ahead line. That's going to be tight. But I like the Texas Longhorns. They're rested right now. I like their defense against Virginia versus Colorado State. We'll talk about that game more when we get to it. Of course, that'll be on the website because by the time I post these videos, we won't know who they're playing yet. But those are my first thoughts. I love Texas's defense, especially if they're all rested. Watch out, especially for these first round teams. And the next game is going to be the number 2 Tennessee Volunteers, favored by 21.5 points against 15 seeded St. Peter's. Does St. Peter's have another upset in them? I don't know. This game's going to be a Thursday, 8:20 p.m. St. Peter's kind of has a pretty bad offense, but they have a great defense. Can they do enough defensively? It's a huge number. We know Rick Barnes struggles with that, especially in the tournament in March. This may just be. I wouldn't lay this. I would not lay this, just based off of Rick Barnes and Tennessee. I think they just want to win and move on to the next round. Style points isn't really what they're about. And St. Peter's, if they can play good enough defense, they can keep this game close. But again, their offense is not great, so I'm not too sure how they will fare. And that's what kind of makes me a little nervous taking St. Peter's in this one. So like I said, I'm going to let this line marinate a little bit. Everyone's healthy for Tennessee. They didn't have Zagai Ziegler last year. Obviously, they didn't have Dalton Connect last year. They were a much better team than they were last year and years prior. So, this could be a little difficult, but You know, laying any kind of number like this with Rick Barnes always dicey. Again, it's kind of a different Tennessee team. St. Peter's not having any decent offense kind of scares me off of it, but we'll have to wait and see. But that's kind of what I think right now. Midwest region, not a lot of action. Some close games like the Utah TCU game, Gonzaga McNeese, some very interesting matchups, honestly. Just not the firepower that we kind of would want. It kind of looks like Purdue gets like an easy little run here. Not as much firepower, but great matchups. Um, but that's all we have here. So go ahead, subscribe to the channel. We'll have videos throughout the week, March Madness, the whole tournament rather, and recap videos will also be on Twitch. So follow all of our social media and look at the check out the website, subscribe, and we'll see you later. And check out the other 3 videos. We're all done and posted. So let's get some winners here. All right, later.